It's Channel Grim and Grin's Monster Bites, the Silent Screams. This episode, the Golem. The Golem, How He Came Into the World from 1920 is the third installment of what is most likely the oldest horror trilogy ever made. However, unfortunately, it is also the only surviving installment left in the earliest horror trilogy ever made. The two films that came before it now only exist in small fragmentary pieces, and only the Golem, How He Came Into This World still survives. However, rather fortunately, this one is a prequel, which means that rather than it being left entirely unintelligible due to its two preceding films being destroyed, it still stands perfectly well on its own 2 feet. And oh, how well it stands on its own 2 feet. This film is great. Set in medieval Prague, the Golem, How He Came Into This World follows a Jewish rabbi who crafts a golem out of clay and magic in order to serve and protect the community. It does the job, more or less, after a slightly convoluted plot, but unfortunately, while the rabbi is away, the golem is reawoken longer than it should be, resulting in mayhem and carnage. Now, I'm really oversimplifying the story here, which I think is fine because I'm not doing these videos to summarize plots, but instead get to the meat of the film itself. And the meat of this film is just incredible. It essentially feels almost like a proto-Frankenstein movie, except rather than it being a doctor creating the monster using body parts and science, it's instead a rabbi using clay and magic. And they don't stinge on the effects either. You have plenty of cool shots of magic being performed, my favorite of which being where he draws the summoning circle here. And when it comes to the rampage, it's equal in quality to what you see in the later films by Universal. I think the only downside in the entire movie is that the Golem's design hasn't exactly aged well. He looks a little bit goofy and really doesn't stand up in comparison to earlier monsters like Nosferatu or later monster designs like the Frankenstein's monster from the 30s. Despite this, you really do forgive that when it's rampaging through Prague while dragging a woman behind him by her hair. And so the Golem, How He Came Into the World. As one of the best horror movies of the silent era, I can't recommend you check it out enough.
Leave now and never come back.